Okay, this is Martha Creek. Welcome, everybody. This is a Tuesday, July the 11th, and it is my absolute privilege to be here with you, a blessing indeed to have you join in what's something that I believe will be meaningful to us in surprising ways, and certainly not to try to believe me about it, but to stay open about it. I feel like I want to give a disclaimer. So this is being recorded. If anytime you want to share without it being recorded, that's your responsibility and your right to say, Martha, stop the recording because I want to speak without the recording. You're welcome to do that. And I'm recording it for people that can't be here tonight or that's coming in late, and to offer it then up to ministries for other leaders or ministries that may want to teach this or facilitate this, that they have something to refer to. So the purpose of in doing this, to record it, is to get empowered teachings to the whole of the world. So that's my mission, empowered teachings to the whole of the world. And I'm here tonight with you to serve those who are serving the world. So I bow to you, and I know for dang sure if you're here tonight, you're in service to the one and a greater wholeness, a greater oneness, and a greater source than our apparent physical selves. And I sincerely thank you for that. And hi, John, and hi, Kitty, and Mary, and those of you that came in after I call the names. So let's think about then, like a topic of signs, just the concept of signs themselves. What do they mean to you? What are some of the signs you've had? What are signs that you resonate with? So just take a minute or two and reflect on that. What does the concept of signs mean to you? Signs, the signs. Hi, Tiffany. Hi, honey. We're reflecting, those of you that came in, on what the notion of signs actually mean. What are having signs or seeing signs? How do you relate to and resonate with the notions of signs, life signs, signs of life? What are some examples? And if you want to use the chat, feel free to. Greg has, he says, guidance from others, guidance from a higher realm, perhaps spirit guides. Anybody else? You can raise your hand and wave, raise your virtual hand, or put it in the chat, whatever feels right to you.
I would like to say one.
Jeannie, go ahead, honey.
Thank you. A sign could also be an indication of don't go there, falling rocks, be very careful, step back. Or it also could mean showing you if you're on a trail, oh, this is where I'm going. There's the canyon over there. That's the way I'm to go. So just real diverse ways. And also, if you see a penny unexpectedly, I was growing up, that was an angel that dropped one for you, just spiritual something in that realm too.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I have in mind for us to be this open to who knows what it means, but and and let's consider that it has meanings that we've given it. It also has meanings that are new to us that we haven't given it. And Tiffany wrote similar, Jean, with what you said, that it could be like for her, signs can be a trail of I'm on a right path, breadcrumbs, so to speak. I've got a trail of breadcrumbs letting me know I'm on the right track. And it could come in the way of signs of a feeling, of a knowing, a synchronicity, as Sue says, a coincidence, repeated words, numbers, messages, symbols. Now, this is as old as Methuselah. It's also in every culture. So there's nothing new about this, but it's new for me to take a look at this. And it may be new for some of you to take a look at this. So I want to put an image up now, and I want you to just put your pens down, stop writing or do anything with it other than just be with the symbol, be with this image. This is an actual photograph. And Joanne, yes, me too. She says, a scent sometimes reminds me of a loved one who's passed. And when my dad first passed, I was having some difficulty believing that it was him. I had a sense of him, for example, and then I started smelling cigarette smoke when in a place where there was no cigarette smoke. So I felt like that was his sign. That was him saying it is actually me. And then other people that have awarenesses of this could say, even confirm your dad's here. So I'm not asking you to believe any of this. As usual, Martha Creek's here with a lot of questions, a curious mind, and a willingness to learn something. I hope you will too, and to stay open to what I'll refer to throughout this course, that we got 3 weeks of it, one tonight and then 2 more, of the presence of divination, the presence of the divine, a different presence of the divine, a new relationship with the divine that includes signs, symbols, shapes. And I'll be working with the transpersonal as I've approached this. So the person plus the not person. Ever how you would describe the transpersonal, beyond the person and the not person, the person and whatever's beyond the person. And I've got a quote here that I'm going to put in the chat so you can see it. Somebody's having trouble getting in. Let me see if I can help them. This is from Erwin Schrodinger. Erwin Schrodinger. Do y'all remember him? So you've studied him and his psychology and that. And this inspires this kind of approach to anything for me. And what he says is, consciousness is a singularity phasing within all beings. Consciousness is a singularity phasing in all beings. Different phases, one singularity, a singularity phasing in phases with all beings. What's the implications of this? Does it sound similar to what you actually teach or believe about there's one mind or one power, one presence? So then consciousness then cannot be accounted for in physical terms. Consciousness is absolutely fundamental, however. And even though it cannot be accounted for in physical terms, it cannot be accounted for in terms of anything else either. So let's see then if we can stay open to consciousness as a singularity, phasing in us all, phasing in all of our beings, and that there is the one power, the one presence, a divine creator, a higher source, whatever you want to call it, relating to us as us. And what we can take away maybe from a new relationship with this as signs. So let me see if I can get this to show on my screen. So be with this image. Just silently be with the image and put your pens down, no writing for a little bit. And close your eyes and see if the image is still there. And then open your eyes. Be with the image again. And this time, notice the shapes. What shapes are in there? Don't try to do it all, or don't try to get them all, or approach it as this is a test versus this is a relationship. And then pick up your pen and a piece of paper and draw any shapes that you are aware of. Any shapes you saw or remembered or felt or relate to from that image. And notice if you're trying to do it right or to get them all, and just drop that. Remember, this is a play shop. We're in here exploring. And any of you that drew some shapes, if you have something on your paper, can you just hold it up to the screen? So let's take a look at Bonnie's. Bonnie G. Bonnie, keep it up there if you can. Look at Bonnie's drawing and how you can observe what she's experienced here and what she brought forth. And see if you're resonant with it, what part of you resonant with it? Are you more resonant with the circular part of it, or the spiral parts of it, or the squarish frame, a square within a square? If there's any part that's more resonant with you. Thank you, Bonnie. John, let's see yours, honey. Did you start to show yours?
I thought you were telling all of us to do it.
Uh-huh.
So here we go.
Yeah. What words you got? Rectangle. Uh-huh. What's the first word, honey?
Down this end, that was a pillar on either side of the gate and up the top of the steps.
Yeah.
But then there was also a rectangle within the box.
Yeah.
Which was interesting to me.
Yeah. Thank you, honey. Notice Susan Hager's image that's up while her camera's closed. It shows up in multicolors. Sue, do you want to tell us about that symbol or that image, honey? I don't know if you're able to come on or not.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. That is a Chicana, so what would be called like an Inca cross. And it's a representation of the higher worlds, this world, the lower worlds, and also the steps of to quote unquote enlightenment, elimination of the ego, sacred alchemy, and sharing. Thank you.
Thank you too, honey. Anything you drew that you want to share with us, honey?
Sure. If you can see it, let's see here.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Similarities here.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else that's drew, can you hold it up? Just raise your hand. Let me call on you so we can all focus in a minute on it. Judith, go.
I actually have two pieces. I have, let's see. Or I might need to unblur my background for you to see this. Hold on.
Yeah.
I have
Mm-hmm.
this piece, and then I have behind the gate.
Thank you. A singularity, phasing in all creation. A singularity phasing in all beings. Anybody else drew that you want to share here? Let us witness for you. Tiffany. Beautiful, honey. Are you aware that you drew this from imagination?
Kind of, yeah.
From an imprint, so to speak? And just a couple of minutes with this too, by the way. It wasn't a long time, just 2 minutes. Anybody else want to share what you drew? Carrie. Yes. Are those spirals, honey, coming out from the circle? Yeah. Will you unmute so we can hear your interpretation, honey, or your experience?
Yeah, what struck me about this whole thing was that in my mind, everything went into the center and brought it in this way. And all the curves, it was as if the external part, the rectangles around the outside were I saw it as our experienced world. And then as all those curves, and the spirals kind of drew the energy from the outside in or the inside out, depending on how you wanted to focus on it. But there was always, to me, it was the circle in the middle that was impactful.
Yeah. So we'll see where this leads us, honey, then in looking at these signs of life and what they may actually mean to us, to our evolution, and where even a situation or circumstance that we're in too. So we're moving in that direction. So anybody relative to, I'm going to put the image back up again. So this time pins down again. And this time, Julie, did you want to share, honey, what you drew? I just now saw your camera come open.
No, I was just settling. Mine looks nothing like the thing.
Did you miss the part about a singularity expressing
I
it?
can hear it, but it's kitties.
Mhm.
Now, is it a circular and a heart, honey? What's the shape?
There's a circle, and I did kind of see hearts, even though there aren't any hearts. And instead of diagonals, I've got squares.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Thank you, honey. And remember, this is a no compare, no despair zone. Okay. No compare, no despair.
good thing for that.
You're playing with us here, honey. So I'm going to put the image back up, pins down. In this case, if you will, just be with it again and see if there's messages. If there's a messages, like a message. What message would this sign, this image, these shapes deliver to you, maybe? Not trying to do it right, just kind of an openness. So connect with it, courageous about it, willing. Now, write down any messages, anything you heard or sensed or know or believe. What are messages from these signs? What can this tell us? Deborah says, I see movement inward to one central point, an outward movement with no destination. Thank you, Deborah. Anybody else? What messages did you see here? Bonnie, then Jean.
I like Deborah's. I saw shepherd hooks, soldier spears, and lilies in bud. And then the message from seeing those, I saw the peaceful, the warring, and the earth, and all are connected by those symbols.
It's profound, really, Bonnie. Say it again.
I saw shepherd hooks, soldier spears, and lilies in bud. And that represented the peaceful, the warring, and the earth, and all are connected.
Thank you, Jeannie.
We're all going to walk through the gate. The gate is a transition we all go through, and it was very calm there, nothing to be afraid of. There was still life over there inside the gate. Grass was growing, it was green. It was just okay. And also what got me too was on the outside, everything was crumbling. No form of matter stayed the same. It was crumbling. It was kind of messy, and life is messy sometime, or I'll speak for myself. It's messy, and we can still make it. And I just really liked it. It was okay. And what on the other side of the gate? Oh, I said that there's life. So I like all connected.
Beautiful, honey. Thank you. Carrie.
I kept being drawn to those crossbars in the gate, but I kept seeing them different than what they were. And to me, what came to me about that is that you don't want to be fooled about the external, and you have to shift in order to become aware of what's beyond that.
Yeah, beautiful, honey. Will you say it again? And instead of you, say I.
Okay. I saw the okay, wait a minute. I saw that the supports in the middle were very much they would go back and forth. Sometimes I saw them as stumps or something, and then I would see them. I'd have to focus to come back out to the gate, the physical gate itself. And so I saw it as a analogy for the how we can see reality one way, or we can choose to see it in a different way. I can choose to see it in a different way. That's hard for me to do that. Yeah, that I can shift from one way of seeing that external world to another way of seeing the greater world. That's where I want to go with that.
It's beautiful. Thank you, honey. And it is powerful to say it. So I love how open you were to just try it, honey, to see if I can say you can see it, or you can see it, or we can see it, instead of like, wait a minute, this is my own wisdom. This is coming to me through these signs.
Mhm.
I can see this differently, and I can see that the physical is not all represented here. Like what I see in the physical is only ever a perception of what's in the physical. And that I can, even as I was focusing on the physical, I was seeing more than the physical. Divination, broader perspective, the unseen, other realms, who knows? Thank you, Carrie. It's beautiful, honey. Anybody else? What messages did you see, sense, feel? Kitty. Then John. Mhm.
Okey-doke. The thing in the center, and I think that's what Carrie was just talking about, to the right and the left of the circle, and I'm not an artsy person, so I don't know what it's called. The thing to the right looked like a head, and then maybe some fins with it. And for me, it was plowing through, it was cutting right through the busyness and the stress we face. It was just like, it seemed empowered to just go right through it.
Yeah, this is important for you, honey. This message.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, for anybody else that heard it. Thank you, John. Kitty, go ahead, honey.
When I looked at the image the second time, my eyes sort of relaxed. I'm a little bit tired, and my eyes just relaxed on the image, and it kind of blurred, and it turned a little bit 3D, like I was on psychedelics or something. And I was wondering if you had intentionally blurred the image, if you were playing with the image, but I think it was just my eyes relaxing. And it was beautiful that it turned kind of a 3D. That grass became just a very vibrant green. And I just was a little bit like Jean, and that I wanted to go in that gate and walk into that garden or that cemetery, whatever that was. I don't know that that was a message, but it just was surreal, and it was just drawing me in. I wanted to walk inside that gate.
Thank you, honey. Sounds like you did. Anybody else? Any messages you can speak or share? Julie, then Judith.
So I don't know how succinct I can make words, but
I felt like I was really drawn to focus into the center, and I kept not seeing the gate because I was sort of in the front and behind of what it was. And I'm like, is the gate trying to keep something out or in? And it felt kind of ridiculous at one point. It's like there's so much life on either side and all around. What good is this elaborate gate? And that's kind of where I was like. So I'm guessing for me, it's to stay focused and centered. Not get too caught up in the pointy parts of life.
Say it again, honey.
To stay focused and centered and not get too caught up in the pointy parts of life.
Profound. Judith, you want to go, honey? Was your hand up?
It wasn't, but I'm happy to go. But I feel like I have a lot to say, so I'll try to be succinct. What struck me the first time I saw it and struck me immediately the second time I saw it is that the center circle was pierced. And from that, then my eyes would go out, well, what's piercing it and where is it going? And so what really struck me, what Bonnie was calling, I think, lily blooms, and that shape that had those curly, like I could see that the cross swords or spears or whatever they looked like to somebody else that actually were piercing the center had that image on ends of them. But if you looked in the actual cross this way, that symbol was also there, and it was across the top. And for me, they were this symbol of blooming, of green, of life. And if I was looking at the shafts that were in the cross pieces that were twisted, to me, there was this, the whole thing was about this energy and communication that goes in both directions. And so, but it pierces, right? But then it goes back out, and it goes back out everywhere, but then it comes back in. And I was struck by the fact that the gate was made of iron, that was really something really solid, but it was still had so many open spaces. So there's also this flow of feeling like the gate provides this sort of solid framework, right? But that you can easily go between. And that, so to me, it was all about this whole balance and flow of energy going in every direction, coming in, going out, between the soft and the hard, between the crumbling on one side and just that verdant lush green on the other side. There was this whole, to me, sense of balance in that moment.
Thank you, honey. And succinct is an option. And you were quite succinct, honey. Just don't let it stop you from engaging and sharing here to whatever degree you want to, honey. And
Okay.
Julie, and for the rest of you too. Welcome, Dottie. Okay. Let's take one more look at it. You ready? And this time you can keep your pens in your hand if you want to. And I want you to draw whatever shapes you see. So if you see triangle, draw triangle. If you see circle, draw circle. If you see square, draw square. Draw whatever shapes you see here. Draw them on the page. This is more the individual shapes that is contained in the larger shape. What are the individual shapes? Okay. We'll stop there. So how would you explain how one image like this moved you in so many, at such depth, or in the varied kind of ways that it moved you? One image, just a few minutes with one image. How would you explain how that could have affected you, moved you the way it did?
I would say wishful thinking on my part, something I would love to see.
Yeah. What about though, Bonnie, like your message, that look back at what you wrote?
When everybody who's at peace and at war and the earth all are connected, I'd like to feel that all the time, and I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. All that from one image. That's all
All
we're
All that from one gate.
little 5x7. Yeah. So the same then goes that science cannot tell us a word about why these symbols affect us the way they do, or these signs, or the combination of these shapes, or the formation of it, even the iron nature of it, the flow in it as you described, or why music delights us. How could you comprehend how music delights us? Of how and why a song could move us to tears. Or a painting. Or sculpture. Or a smile, for that matter. So that's the realm I want us to stay open to. That it's a realm that's not to be understood. It's a realm that's not to be comprehended, but a realm to be related with, to be relatable to. A realm beyond our senses, beyond the physical, beyond the person. And then let's look then at, welcome, Sue. I'm glad you made it in here, honey.
Thanks, Martha.
If you've got a blank piece of paper, if you can get that, or some of you have Post-it notes, if you have Post-it notes at your desk, take off 5 blank Post-it notes. And if you don't have Post-it notes, just use whatever paper you've got there. But we're going to do 5 things, and I prefer them to be separate if you've got a way of doing that. So either 5 Post-it notes, or maybe tear a larger piece of paper into 5 little sections, or cut it, or whatever you can do quickly. 5 pieces of paper. And kind of give me a sign like this when you're ready, when you've got your 5 papers going, you're kind of ready to go with the assignment. Generally, people are. Okay. So I'm going to show you then 5 universal shapes in a very primordial shape. And I want you to draw just one sheet on each piece of paper, one shape. So when you see the first shape will be like a circle, put a circle on one page. the next sign on the next and the next. So you can have 5 shapes on 5 different pieces of paper. So draw a circle. On one page. And then a triangle. A square. And then a spiral. And I'll show you that my spiral looks more like this. So draw the spiral ever how is true for you. These are my 5 shapes here. Circle, a triangle, a square, a plus sign, and a spiral. And keep them side by side if you can, so you can see all 5 shapes at once. And just be with them. Just look at the shapes. And then doodle the shapes. Doodle a circle, like doodle with a circle. Just doodle a circle and notice how you feel when you're doodling a circle. What your relationship with it is. Now doodle triangle. And now doodle square. And now doodle the square, the cross or the plus sign. And see if you make it more of a plus sign or a cross. Sometimes it looks more like this one. And this is how I drew mine. So doodle the cross. And this is the way I drew it this afternoon. And then doodle the spiral. Okay. Now draw the 5 symbols, the 5 shapes again on 5 different pieces of paper. So this is your second time to draw them. So draw a circle. And then a square. A triangle. A plus sign cross. And then a spiral. And put them out all in front of you, all 5 of them in front of you. And this time, number them 1 to 5 in your order of preference. So 1 is the shape that you have the most affinity to, the one you have a deeper relationship with. That's your preference, number 1. Number that shape, number 1. And then whatever shape you don't really resonate with, like you don't maybe not even like it all that much. Your least favorite will be number 5. And then the others, your next favorite one will be number 2. And then 3 and 4. So you're going to number them in the area, in the order of your preference. Without any reason, without any formula or specific goal other than to indicate your preference. Is there anybody that can't put them in preference order? Do you need any little jump start here for that? Anybody in an analysis paralysis? Okay, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. The group says amen, amen, amen. It's a miracle. Okay. So what was it like? What was it like to draw them, to doodle them, and or put them in preference? What'd you notice? Anybody? To draw it, to doodle it, to choose it? What'd you notice? Anybody?
I noticed that with the circle, the triangle, and the square, there was a minuscule moment of, Bonnie, you've got to connect that first line to that second line to make this right. It was like, I've got to connect it because it can't be unconnected.
Yeah. So you mean like the circle had to close or the square had to close, all the sides of the square had to close? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It was a brief moment.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anybody else? Any observations here? Sue?
Well, I just enjoyed the whole thing. And while I was doing it, I was going, I wonder what the purpose is. I wonder why we're doing this while I was doing it. But I was enjoying doing it, and it was very easy to pick my preferences.
Thank you, honey. And you came in, honey, even after you heard some of this. So
Yeah.
you can listen to the recording if you wanted. So you can
Okay.
kind of us with, this is part of our discovery, honey. There is no right or wrong. There's not much why to it other than we're looking for a way to connect with the divine through signs, through symbols, through ways to get messages, and what messages we may can get through symbols and signs that that are known throughout all cultures. That's known since millennia, since the beginning of time, since Methuselah. There's been these signs and symbols and symbology and these things. And this class is about developing a bit more of a relationship with them than some of us have, and staying in this a playful sense of curiosity in that too. Yeah. So thanks for just going with it, honey.
Yeah, thanks.
One of you sent a direct message to me that says these shapes only have the meaning we give them. These shapes can also be used to distress us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So the last quote I put up is this one. It's in your chat. What we observe as material bodies, the flesh and blood, what we observe as material bodies and forces are nothing but shapes and variations in the structure of space. What are the implications of this? That the material body and forces are nothing, and I'm not asking you to believe this. Remember to stay curious, like, huh? What we observe as material bodies and forces are nothing but shapes and variations in the structure of space. What are the implications of this? It's true.
Well, one thing, Martha, is 50 million people can look at the same shapes and forces and shapes and variations and make up 50 million different things about them. So we all have our own, just like our pictures we just showed you, no one was the same, and we all saw the same thing. So we all had our own interpretation of what we saw, which is how communication is. We interpret what we hear when people talk to us. It's just words floating in the air, and we're interpreting them.
Yes, so this is in alignment. Thank you, Bonnie. And as Carrie said, this is in alignment with what most of us teach and believe or claim that we believe, that we are in some way creating our own realities.
Yeah.
Through this perception, through this interpretation. So we interpret it and then believe what we made up about it.
Mhm.
And one of you said, then this indicates then the applications of this include infinite possibility, an infinite power of the mind to interpret and therefore to create. Julie says it as the changing nature of the thing itself. The changing nature of life itself, of it itself. With one source, and back to our first quote, which was consciousness is a singularity, phasing within all beings. Consciousness is a singularity, phasing in all creation. Okay. This is a book. I've asked you not to get it until we're done with the class. So please hold off on it if you can. They are available on Amazon and they're about $5. And do your best to hold off if you can, just for 2 more weeks, so you can relate to this differently than trying to have an intellectual understanding of it. This is from an author, and this is what she says. I have researched the origins of over 1,200 different symbols to learn about the consistency of meaning given to each symbol by different societies. In 1980, I became interested in finding out if there are certain shapes found in the art of most cultures and of most ages. I wanted to know what meanings, if any, human beings attribute to these shapes, and whether the meanings are similar in the various cultures. I wondered whether they are a collective human experience that are consistently recognized and deepened when the shapes are expressed artistically by people of different times and ages and culture. And then I began to cross-cultural study them to discover the possible answers to these questions. Over the next 7 years of research and application of this emerging material, I discovered that 5 basic shapes appear in the art of all cultures. 5 basic shapes: the circle, the square, the triangle, the cross, and the spiral. This study also confirmed that people in different cultures do give similar meanings to these shapes. The circle symbolizes, anybody want to guess what the circle might symbolize?
Sun, moon.
Unity? Inclusion?
Keep going.
The circle of life and death.
Connectedness.
Yeah, these things have in common. She sums it up as the circle symbolizes wholeness.
Hmm.
Wholeness. The square indicates, any guesses what the square might indicate?
Strength.
Stability.
Oh.
Stability. The triangle represents goals and dreams. Goals and dreams. The cross stands for relationship. And the spiral means growth. Growth. Any questions about that? So I wanted you to write those down, what the circle means. So the circle is wholeness. The square symbolizes stability. The triangle, goals and dreams. The cross stands for relationship. And the spiral means growth, or stands for growth. It also became evident to me, the writer speaking now, that the meaning attributed to each shape stands for a process of human growth. And the shape carries this process within itself. So using these 5 universal shapes, I developed this effective tool that can be used to determine the connection between a person's preference for certain shapes and the same person's inner subjective state.
Oh, wow.
In my research with myths and fairy tales, I noticed that characters in these stories often had to make life or death choices involving objects or people or questions or riddles or animals or other items. I discovered that no matter how many or how few objects are available to choose among, the obvious choices are rarely correct. I also learned that there is one particular choice that is the fairy tale character's key to transformation and liberation. For example, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Remember her? She had to sit in every chair. She had to taste each bowl of porridge. And had to sleep in all the beds. Until she found the one that was just right. This is an example. Do you know of any other fairy tale in which a character had to choose between many things to find what was just right?
How about the Princess and the Pea? She couldn't sleep on the mattress.
Absolutely, and couldn't know why.
Yeah.
It made no sense. Any other fairy tale that comes to mind where we had to choose life or death? Even Tiffany?
Well, Cinderella, the slipper had to find the 1 foot that fit in it perfectly, the only one.
In the whole kingdom. I use the information I've had found in this research to determine the meanings of these shapes. These positional meanings correspond to what is archetypically found in fairy tales when characters like you and me are faced with life-changing choices. It was my belief that when people take this test, that they will repeat the same archetypical process of choice making used by the characters in myths and fairy tales, and that they will make a certain predictable preferential choice, which will be the key to their current growth process. So you're welcome in advance, because you have before you your map, your map to your own life-changing transformation. To assess this theory and to discover whether the test is viable for self-discovery, she gave the test to over 200 graduate students at the California Institute of Integral Studies, JFK University, and the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology. The significance of the test results enabled her to present this material to over 6,000 workshop and conference participants in many different ages, cultural backgrounds since 1980. The results confirmed her hypothesis. Over 90% of all participants validated that there is one positional choice that is a relevant tool for assisting transformation in current life situations. Results from the test also revealed that shape preferences are a great barometer of inner processes. The 5 shapes, as I had concluded, are indeed external symbols of internal psychic states. The preference for particular shapes is an announcement of the value and processes active at any time for an individual, a group, or a society. And as one becomes sensitive to the shapes, one will see them in many forms. You'll start to see them in your doodles or doodling, on logos, corporate signage, art collections. The meaning ascribed to each of the 5 shapes symbolizes and demonstrates your worldview. The qualities, characteristics, belief structures, actions, and forms of expression used by one person. This is your sign. Individuals then can use this book for deeper study. So next week, I'll take each of the signs and we'll go into the positions that you have them in, and the relative nature of that, and what the positions of the sign mean, and what we can learn by the signs and the positions they're in, what may be in some conflict, and how it can inform us and what you may be currently experiencing. The sequence in which we place the shapes when taking the test is most important in showing which of the 5 universal processes of change and growth is being experienced most intensely by you at this time. In addition to this text, which will explain it, we have visual images, artists, and poetry from every continent to support our work. The value and meanings of the shapes and their undeniable presence in our lives was recognized by all our ancestors from all cultures. And this is a piece of poetry from somebody named Piero Ferrucci, and I'll put it in the chat in a minute. Who can afford to live without beauty? Who can afford to live without beauty? Beauty fills us with passion. It graces us with joy and lights up our existence. A landscape, a piece of music, a film, a dance. Suddenly, all dreariness is gone. We're left bewitched. We're dazzled. If we get lost in dark despair, beauty takes us back to center. According to Carl Jung, the powerful forces of the unconscious appear not just in clinical material, but also in mythology, religious, artistic, and other activities throughout humankind that we experience ourselves. Jung advocated the symbol as the psychological mechanism that transforms energy. Would you write this down? Even if you don't believe it, see if you can maybe believe it or consider, what if it's true? The symbol, these symbols are the psychological mechanism that transforms energy. And most of our communication is nonverbal. Most of our communication is manifested through symbol, through myth, through art, through expressions, through thoughts, through feelings, through sculpture, through music, through dance. And the designer of the UNESCO Gardens in Paris says that this process of transformation in us and in the way we communicate like this as our awakening. The process of transformation found in these symbols in art, mythology, communication, expressions is our awakening. And he describes it as this: I don't think that art comes from art. A lot of artists apparently think so. I think art comes from the awakening person. Awakening is what you might call the spiritual. It is a linkage to something flowing very rapidly through the air. And I can put my finger on it and plug into it, so to speak. Do artists need a spiritual way? Or do they need art? You can say that no one is the same as the other. Everything tends toward awakening. And I would rather use the word awakening than a word derived from some system, because there are so many systems. Aristotle says it as this: the soul never thinks without an image. The soul never thinks without an image. In conclusion, she says, I want to say again how important I believe it is to remember that the order of preference chosen for the 5 shapes is an announcement of the values and processes active at any given time in you, the individual. It is my hope in this material that it will provide you with a tool that can be used to awaken a greater understanding of yourself and of your environment. This book represents the beginning exploration of a cross-cultural overview on this subject. I encourage you to use this material to expand the concepts and the possibilities of this work in your awakening. Okay. Is that enough to get you to come back next Tuesday? Can come back to see what the positions mean, what we can look at in the way of these definitions and things like that. And if anybody wants to join in, tell them to be sure to listen to this recording. So they would email me and have me to send them this recording so they can listen to it before next week's class. They'll find more meaning in it, I think. And anything you want to say in closing here, what it's been like for you, any little debrief or something before we close. Be sure to bring back your numbers next week and the orders of preference. And for those of you that are working with me personally in Extraordinary Leaders group or immersion, I'd love it if you would send them in to me. Just take a picture of them or your numbers or what positions are in what shapes or in which position. I'd love you to share that with me if you would. And you're welcome for my part. Thank you all for being here. I'll hang around if you want to chat a little bit. Otherwise, see you next Tuesday.
Thank you,
Bye.
Martha.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Martha.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Martha.
Welcome.
You,
Thank
love
you.
you.
Have
Definitely looking forward to next week.
Have some fun with the symbols this week. Keep doodling. See what you can make of them. Mhm. Mhm. I look forward to it too. Bye, Joanne.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Susan, Julie, Judith, Bonnie, Tiffany, Kitty. Love to you all.